Really? Okay. It's Monday, September 23rd. Mental health is physical wealth. Yeah, it's been one of them days. It's been one of them days. It is a long day. It's Monday. September 23rd, 2024. Let's try that again. Okay. This is the Adroit Living uh, session of the Erudition Network. Here I come on and I volunteer my time to help with mental health and help everyone to realize and recognize they are living an adroit life. That means they're clever and they're being skillfully creative with their hands and just the bare necessities that they have to make what they want. Um, and sometimes, we just need that reminder, especially these days. These days, we definitely need that reminder. So I'm not on telling you anything you don't know, but I'm confirming a lot of things that you know already, and some things you may have heard, but you didn't know if you should trust. You're like, I don't know if I could trust that information. I know, right? But yeah, hey, I get it. I totally get it, and that's why. In these episodes, I try very hard to present you with some facts and information that you can trust. Now, here is something um, I don't know. This we don't know where to get our information and what books to read or where to go for information. So I wrote a book, and in this book, you can see, a lot of the information in it is factual. Well, all the information is factual, but it's directing you to help you understand what information you can trust and what information is just information and what information is facts. And that's where we really need to, pick up, um, because without facts, you're really not learning. You're just gathering more of an opinion. And opinions, it's not going to move the world, okay? But this book is available on Amazon and any place else books are sold. But look for my book, Generational Wealth, Information Asymmetry, and Your Success. Also, search my name and see if you can find any of the other materials that I've written that's free. And I've written in academia, so you can see other materials and get that information for free. And it's factual, it's peer reviewed. All of the writings that I write have peer reviewed accreditation. Okay, it's like saying, okay, this is information that's factual because it's been fact checked. How about that? That's a trending word during this political venture that we're currently in. Okay, so they fact checked. So all of the writings that follow it and not feel like, oh, I can't trust that information. It's facts. Okay, it's facts. Now, be, behind me, you see a bag floating around, and later you're gonna see my son come and put those fish right on into the aquarium for me. I'm gonna have to change the water anyway, so he's just gonna do what he got to do for me while I'm on the air, so you can see it live right here. Now, this particular group of fish, this is not about today's show. I'm just giving people a chance to come on. But these particular fish were from PetSmart. It comes in a bag, like you see there. And what I do is I take some of my aquarium water, I pour it into the let the fish acclimate to the temperature and the type of water that they're going into, so they have a higher chance of survival without being sick. But then I keep an eye on the fish, so if the fish start to look like they're getting sick, I give them a little medicine. But normally this process, it helps them to thrive, and there's never ever a problem. The reason why I got these fish from like PetSmart is because the breeder that I normally get whiptail catfish from to help eat algae in the aquarium, well, they tripping. So I'm like, look, I told y'all something wrong with your fish. I'm not going to be paying for it and shipping and handling, and there's still something wrong with your fish where they're not surviving. So they took it off the market for a while, and then they waited and put them back on the market, but it was still something wrong with them. So there's that. And I have a glowfish in there that came from them too, and it's not doing so great, but it's living. It's like living deformed though, and I don't have the heart. Other people would have been to get out of there, but it's living, and it's like it's eating, it's moving around, and everything. It's just really badly deformed. But I don't have the heart to take it out of there and euthanize it. I'll just let it live. It's not contagious or anything, so I'm just going to leave it in there until it lives out its lifespan. I'm not the one that goes around euthanizing things. Let it live for as long as it can and give it a good home, and that's that. It'll anyway. I just wanted to explain that. So you're like, oh, what's going on with that aquarium? Well, what's going on is it needs some algae eaters in there. So I'm trying to do some things and get the aquarium back to health, because I was using some pothos on the top to grow, and it was taking up all the light source. So we got to start to let that light back in the aquarium so the plants in the aquarium can grow it. Because I was like, oh, that's great. Plants inside the aquarium. Yay. But I wanted some plants outside the green thumb, and the fish are so good at it. I'm going to let them grow it. Okay. You got to work with what you got. Okay. I, I'm just living adroitly. Okay. This is adroit living, y'all. Anyway, I was saying in a few episodes now, because of the political banter that's trending so much, so heavily in this current era, and it's really causing people to have a mental disruption that's seeping over into their ability to feel free to express their desires and vote. And a lot of people are considering not voting because they don't feel like their voice is being heard. They don't feel like it matters. And more importantly, it's because the mental strain they're under. So I wanted to keep trying to help people to understand, you know, it is to the point now where everything is to a boiling point. So when we hear the phrase, we're not going back, that's the response to what's being put out here, where everyone is like, look, my mental space isn't good. I'm just going to snap. And sometimes people don't not like literally come out and say that verbatim, but that's what we're seeing constantly. We're seeing people who are on the edge, can't take it anymore, and they're responding, even if it's something that they plotted for quite some time, and more, and it's not subjected to a particular age group. It's not subjected or exclusive to a particular workplace environment. It is everyone, everywhere, and this is something that has been weighing on me so heavily, because a lot of it I've written about over the last 20 years or so. I'm just saying, to be modest, it's been a little over 20 years, but I've been writing about this because as a psychologist, I've been tracking evidence, empirical evidence that's showing people, look, this is this and that is that. And it was disturbing me because it was like, if we don't have this information, then we're going to end up repeating history that we don't really desire. And that's going to cause a greater loss of life than what a lot of people are able to really predict. Because when we go back in history and we look at it, we see people are skewing the numbers of fatality. And a lot of people say, well, not a lot of fatalities, but it really was. And that means a lot of people didn't get counted. So we don't want to go back to that. We don't want to revert back to that, because a lot of times when people are reporting on this, they're like, well, we can't really say that this was the cause of this loss of life. So we can conclusively state that this was, so we're only going to count that. We should count all of it, because all of it matters. And because of that, that's why we cannot go back. We cannot go back, because the loss of life is so significant, and is so much of it, you cannot enumerate it. And when it's all said and done and everybody's looking back on it, then they'll look and they'll say, well, this was the number, this was the count. We cannot, we have to stop doing that. A lot of times people are only saying that because they want people to feel more comfortable. Look, we need to just tell it like it is, okay? And that's what I'm doing here. I'm telling it like it is. I try to steer away from things being extremely controversial, but I do try to say it in a way that people can understand. Yeah, it's not just in your head. This is really happening. Yeah, there's a lot of people that won't rightfully admit it and own it and accept accountability. But yes, this is not just in your head. This is happening. Now, the name of the show is You Can't Stop Seeing Him. Now, a lot of times throughout my history of my studies and my academic writing and my academic studies, I was watching and tracking things. And I don't know if it was because the way I grew up, y'all. I don't know if it had much to do with my environment or nurturing. That's what I'm saying. But I do know that the positive and negative reinforcement of the things that I have seen and witnessed, and the things that I have, the evidence that I have concluded, is significant to support the ideas and ideas that I do mention on my shows. So binge watch those shows, y'all. Go back and watch them. And I challenge people to watch it like 3 times, 3 different times, each time having a different mindset, so that you can challenge yourself to absorb the information, uh, encode it, receive it, digest it, and then apply it. Yeah, encoding, that's what that means. So when I say, you can't stop seeing him, I'm talking about a lot of times where in various studies, I would see how somebody's tracking things. Like, you see all these polls that people are conducting. Now, I don't know about you, but I feel a little threatened. Like, I saw a text and it was like, we sent you several what did it say? Several invites to take a poll, and it was like, and you haven't you haven't said you're going to vote for Kamala. I'm like, dang, y'all pushing. Y'all doing too much now. Y'all really doing the most, because that's threatening. It's like, if I don't want to do your study, if I don't want to take your survey, if I don't want to say who I'm voting for or who I'm not voting for, that's my business. I don't have to do your poll. I don't have to take your study. But if you were watching my show, you might have a real good, clear hint as about where I'd go as an independent person. I'm not a Democrat and I'm not a Republican. I am independent, and that means it depends on who's talking right and who's doing right, and which way I'm going to vote. And I think that in reality, everyone is like that, because the ballots, they send you a ballot and it has all these people's names on it, and it's like, I want a different ballot. You can at any point in time say that, and you will get that ballot, and you could change your idea of who you want to vote for. So really, just me. It's just me. It really doesn't track. because at any given time somebody can change their mind, and then you'll be thinking, oh well, everybody said they were gonna and nobody did, and now the person who thought they were going to be elected was not elected, so now they're looking for votes that's not ever going to come, and now that person is going cuckoo for cocoa puffs and starting all kinds of um, public indecency and public rowdiness and stuff like that, and it's like really getting to um force people or compel people to respond in kind. I'm put it that way. That's the best way I can put it. Y'all see what's going on. I'm not trying to say it's right or wrong, but I'm saying that it is a clapback. It is a call and a response. It is positive and negative reinforcements that's transpiring. That's saying, okay, you do this and I'm gonna do this, and when you do this, I'm gonna do that. So that give and take, that push and give, that's what we're seeing a lot of times. And a lot of times people just don't know what to call it. Some people, they call it a call and response. And it's like, yup, because he said that, yeah, I'm going to do this. Or yay. Or a lot of times people in church, and they say, the preachers say, God is good. The people clap back and they say all the time. And some people say, you push me and I'm going to push you back. That's that call and response. Some people say an eye for an eye. Okay, so there we go. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying this is what it is. You got to be careful. And a lot of times people, they don't know it, but they're innately looking and trying to find something. And one thing we know is God is extremely consistent, and you can see him and track him and everything, but he's a phenomenon. You can do different things thinking that you're going to get a particular outcome, but it's a phenomenon that you can't control. You can do the same things as somebody else who believes, but you're not going to have that same outcome. And you can do the same thing having the same mind, and you can get a totally different outcome. And it's like, man, I thought I was doing, yeah, you thought, hey, Jackie, nice to see you. You thought, but what it is you can't control it. You can't control it like you can control, or you think you can control anything. But as I've been tracking, as I've been writing over the years, I've been showing even in academia to organizations, global organizations, you cannot, well, internationally, you cannot predict it, because people are subjected to move spontaneously. And a lot of times we've seen, like overseas, where people are heavily compelled by their faith to respond or act. They are moving in a way where they're like, well, no, I know God exists. So in everything they do, they can't stop seeing him. Sometimes you got to look for an omnipresent, omnipotent God everywhere, because when you see him one place, you're going to see him everywhere, because it's not exclusive to one particular thing. It's not just in a church. It's not just in a mosque. It's not just in a steeple or whatever. It's not just in the Bible. It's not just in the Quran. It's not just in the Torah. It's in everything, because God is so big and he's going to reach everyone right where they are. It's not in your house. It's a lot of people who are without housing who are seeing God's hand keep them covered. It's not just people who not on drugs. It's some people who are on drugs and on the street. It's not just people who have jobs that we like to talk about, and now we talking about that whole Diddy situation, Sean Diddy. Yeah, Sean Diddy Combs. Yeah, we talking about it. And we're talking about some people who had some jobs that were like questionable, but it's not exclusive to people who have jobs we like to talk about. It's those people who have those jobs that they get paid to be at them Diddy parties. Okay. it's not exclusive to any one thing. And that's because there are many parts, but there's one body. It's like we all feel like we have a testimony, but it's not true. It's the matter of the fact that that's your part of God's testimony. And it doesn't matter whether you speak English, whether you speak Spanish, whether you don't speak any of those at all, you speak something totally different, Mandarin, whatever you speak. It's a singular language, like the day of Pentecost, where it's like you're talking, but what you're saying is all of this one body. This one body and this one mind. So everything you saying is transcending vocabulary and comprehension is being obtained because it's one language. It's like body language. Body language is one language, it's universal. And it's like when I do this, I'm indefinitely I'm crying. If I'm wiping my tears away, that body language is signaling to you I'm crying, I'm sad, something's not happy. Come on, it's everywhere. It's on the job, at work, at school, it's on the street. And when we try to limit it to a particular location, it's like we think that we can hide. So we think that we can just keep on doing whatever we want to do. You can do whatever you want to do, but it's like that's your part of the testimony. That's like, okay, yeah, you used to do this, but then something innate in you was like, man, I can't stop seeing God everywhere I turn. Now you understand your part. Your part is to have went wayward and now come to the understanding that, yep, God was there too. It's like, when because you find him, you can't stop seeing him. So now it's like you thinking when you don't readily see him, it's like, man, well, God may not come when you want him, but he right on time. And it's like, yeah, that's not really true. That is a saying that a lot of people say. Hey, Natasha, thank you for being here. Thank you here for service. All right, now, sis. It's not true. A lot of these times people say these really common phrases, and it's the idioms are not necessarily factual, but it's more like a mnemonic. A mnemonic meaning is some catchphrase that's attached to something to help you remember something, trigger a memory. And that memory, like me, a lot of times I'll misenunciate words because it helps me to remember something that I need to remember, or I'll mispronounce something because it's trying to help me remember something that I need to remember and hold on to. Those mnemonics are associations, wordplay that helps you to remember something. So it's not that, if he may not come when you want him, but he's right on time. What it is he's always there. He's just waiting for you to acknowledge it's him and not you. A lot of times we get the big head and we let people pat us on the back and we let people tell us, yeah, you did that, girl, boy, you did that. All right, doc, you did it. All right, minister, you did it. God bless your ministry. God increase your ministry. Or you'll be like, oh, you need that raise because you earned that raise at work because, yeah, or you got that grade, you got them honors because you did all of this. And a lot of times, if people really tell it like it really is, they'll tell you that wasn't me. Oh, I studied hard and everything. But when it came down to the test, when it came down to me actually having to apply it in practical application, when it came down, and that may be at the job, that may be at church, that may be at your faith place, that may be at your workplace or school or whatever. When it came to applying the things that I knew, something took a hold, something changed. And while my mind said, yeah, this is what I studied to know how to do, but I did this instead. For example, I spoke a lot about my particular incident because I don't want to put anybody else out there, put people on blast. That's not cool. So I put myself on blast. And I said, when I was studying for my PhD, I noticed that like people who I was paying to help me to learn how to write this dissertation, they did not want me to get that. They didn't want to help me. They wanted me to keep paying. So they made sure that it seemed like I could not apply what I was learning. But and a lot of times they didn't even give me the books. I paid for the books, but they didn't give me the right books to obtain the knowledge that I needed to encode it, to take in the knowledge, digest it, and then put it back out in practical application. But let me tell you something, when you see them, you can't stop seeing them, because now you're going to keep on moving in such a way that it's like, yeah, this is what people want you to do, but you can't go that route because you have to go the route you know. And the route you know is, well, I see him moving over here and he's phenomenal. So he's jumping around the timeline. So, and he's jumping in different places. And it's like, man, I thought I was tracking him. I thought he left me, but I feel something moving me in this direction. And then just like with my situation, where I had those PhDs asking me, well, who told you this? Who taught you this? Who's helping you? Nobody's going to help you, that woman said to me. And I did not flinch. Okay. Because when you see him, you can't stop seeing him. He is going to help you because it's one body, one mind, is one testimony. It's just your part of the whole testimony. What you say, Natasha? That song the quartet group was singing. God did it. Yes, he did, baby. Yes, he did, sis. Let me tell you. And I can't take any other credit. I'm just a vessel. I promise you. We have determined you're interested in coming at school, anything we aspire to do. Yes. And you know what, Jackie? That's a good point, because it's like some people, they say, well, I don't know how to do this. You don't have to know how to do anything, because everything that you aspire to do that was innate in you already, and now is being nourished in you by the desire that's driving you, that's pushing you, that's compelling you to go in that direction and to do that thing. And that's why you feel more comfortable doing the things that you're compelled to do instead of doing the things that people want you to do. A lot of times people want us to feel like, be manipulated to do what they want us to do. Contrive a mindset in us that's like groupthink, is what a lot of people call it in psychology. They want you to have this mentality where it's like a high mind, and that's just not going to happen, because even if for a time, even for a time you was to say, okay, this is what I'm gonna do what everybody else is doing until I learn better. But then you learn better and there's no signal signifying that, oh, I'm just going to change my mind. And they're so dependent upon you being stuck in this box, in this contrived mindset, that they're depending on your behavior. They've predicted your behavior. And then you up and change. And it's like, well, what happened? Well, what happened is, and I try to tell people, and I try to say it in my writings, when you see them, you can't stop seeing them, and it will compel you, even if you're not going to be perfect, even if you're going to keep on making mistakes, or what we all like to call sins and transgressions, or doing things that, doesn't make God so happy. We all going to do it. It's just a matter of how we're doing it, how flamboyant we are, how boisterous we are, insane and admitting it, but we all doing it. So there's no need for anybody to act like they so perfect that nobody seeing the fact that that's what they doing. But anyway, that's why we don't judge. We love, and with our love and kindness, that's what draws all men unto God, so everybody can see it. And I'm not trying to tell you what faith to follow, because I never say what faith to follow. Follow meaning study to show yourself approved. That's in the Bible. That's in a whole lot of faith studies. Study to show yourself approved. It didn't say, well, only read the Bible. Only read this one version of the Bible. Only read the Apocrypha to study to show yourself. It says study. And a lot of times we seeing things that's happening in the world. We seeing things, and it's like, oh, well, this whole building was hit by a missile. And this one baby that was at the top floor is the only one that survived. You can't stop seeing them when you see them. I'm just saying, a lot of times we're seeing these days in this broken system, we're seeing how people are relabeling the system. Okay, for example, I spoke in a couple of videos now how there was the Corinthian colleges, and the Corinthian colleges conducted some really bad business, really foul, to people who were trying to educate themselves or obtain education so that they can seek gainful employment. I'm looking for Teddy to come and get these fish out of here. But anyway, we've seen how sometimes people who are in a lower level class of financial means, they're going out to seek education. And those people were being targeted and abused and taken for all of their money. And they were in the colleges. It was online, and it was like, oh, well, we're going to take advantage of you because you do not work for a group or organization that will speak up for you or pay for part of your education. So we can take advantage of that. We can take advantage of that and keep making you pay and pay and pay into this system and never give you a degree. Well, that culture, though they were going through some legalese and there was judgments that were passed, it was still a thing. It happened way back in 2015, but still in 2022, Kamala Harris still had to go back and say, look, this wasn't right. You need to do this and do that. So back in 2022, when I wrote my dissertation and my dissertation began to trend internationally, I didn't even know that this was a thing. I didn't know it was a still ongoing thing where the Corinthian colleges, it seems, I don't have any evidence as of right now to conclusively state that the Corinthian colleges just dispersed to these particular areas and changed their label. But I have seen where job organizations, institutions, across genre, they change their label. They do not change the culture. That means they're still conducting business in the same way. That means that their broken system that was there before they changed their name is still there. It's still there after they changed their name. They didn't do anything more than change their name. Now, the laws may change a bit to help alleviate some of the burden for the victims, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the laws changed in such a way that will prevent a reoccurrence of these very same cultures that's perpetuating this broken system. And then they call it a broken system. Well, if we know it's a broken system, Tina, why don't we keep doing that same broken system? Why we keep following that same broken system? Let me tell you. The reason why is because people are getting away with changing the label, but never having to change their culture. Why is that? Because we are only seeing it at the surface level. Okay. In the businesses and the organizations that we are seeing being conducted, we are getting the very top layer of anything, the very top level of anything. It's like when you see a miracle happen, you're like, yeah, we were in the midst of danger, but we didn't get hurt. So it wasn't that deep. It wasn't that deep. But when you see them, you can't stop seeing them. And you know that, yeah, we was in the midst of danger, but I can feel something making all of that danger move away from me. I can feel something pushing me or compelling me to go in a different direction. So I didn't have myself in jeopardy of the very route that was. For example, you could be in a store and you would be like, I was standing in that very spot 1 second before the bullet went and started whizzing by. Or I heard a sound and suddenly I hit the floor, and then I felt the rushing wind rush past me, and that bullet, all them rays of bullets hit somewhere else. It didn't hit me. When you see them, you can't stop seeing them. So it's like that. It's at just the surface level where we're like, well, it's not that deep. It is that deep. We need to deep dive into this culture and find the core, find the root. You cannot allow, and I've said it on different episodes, you cannot have the same people who have been in a location that was corrupt and have those same people in a new location. It's like taking a cancer out of one person and putting it into another person, knowing it's cancerous, knowing it's going to kill and destroy the body from the inside out. This is what it means to take a deep dive into that culture. This is what I've been writing about for a very long time. This is what I've been saying in some of these episodes that I'm trying to help you to get to. You have to change it, not just on the top. You have to take a deeper dive and say, yes, this was the bad actor, but this bad actor was represented and fully represented by a deeper culture of people who we need to remove and permanently replace. Then we need to keep an eye on it. We need to keep an eye on it so that whatever it was that compelled those people to be bad actors or be the cause or have that representation of what they really want. For example, I've heard Trump say, well, this is what they talk about in the locker room. You just don't know it. This is what we doing behind closed doors in these corporations and these businesses and organizations and in politics. You, as the general public, just aren't aware of it. Well, whomever those we are that he's talking about, or they are that's being mentioned, and those people who are perpetuating this brokenness, that is the core of the problem. That is the root of the problem that must be removed and replaced. And it's not going to get there by doing the same thing. It's only going to get there by moving forward with somebody who would ask you, are you okay? Not somebody who would tell you, well, because everybody's grabbing her by the crouch, we're going to all grab her by the crouch and see if we can get away with it. Well, because you're a criminal and now I can be a criminal. Now I got street cred, and you're going to give me the street cred because you was in these streets when you got. And now you're going to feel like you could support me because I just got. That's all. Now I got street cred. So we can all just be ignorant. And we can all just do whatever we want and validate those behaviors. And then when someone says, oh, well, you can't do that, well, we'll get rid of them. You can't do that. Because you can't turn around later and say, well, I didn't mean get rid of me, when that person concludes that you're the one that needs to be gotten rid of. You can't say, well, I didn't mean me. You did mean you, because that's what you said if the person was following you correctly. Now, I'm not condoning anybody getting rid of anybody, because God's will be done. You don't have the hell of heaven to put anybody in, so don't be trying to take anybody out. That's my personal opinion, and I'm going to stick to that. We can't become victimized by harm. Yes, that is so true. We can become a victim of the very thing we are putting out in the atmosphere, just like a self-fulfilled prophecy. That's what psychologists call it. You putting it out in the atmosphere, and everything you put out in the atmosphere is coming back to you. What is that called? Some people call it you reap what you sow. Some people call it karma. Instant karma. Sometimes, a lot of times it's trending instant karma because it's funnier. When you do something, you say, oh, that person's a hypocrite. I can't stand hypocrites. And then instantly somebody says, well, you was just saying something hypocritical a moment ago. So yeah. And then you're like, oh yeah, I forget. I am a hypocrite. So I guess I can't judge that person for being a hypocrite, but that person's not me. So I'm going to judge them. Come on now. But it's like, a lot of times we're seeing this bad culture. We're seeing these poor tactics. We're seeing this broken system. We're seeing name changes of schools, name changes of businesses, name changes of faith places, name changes of what is it? What what is it? Politics. And we're seeing like people say things like, oh, that was a little white lie. Oh no, it's a fallacy. Oh no, it's a red herring. It's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. It is something that we do not desire, which is a negative perpetuation of signals. It's a negative signal. And if you watch that one episode where I was telling you about the signal, it being in a closed system and the sender sending the signal out, and it finally gets to the receiver and it bounces off and goes back to the sender. Was it's like that. You have this signal that's being sent out and it's going back and forth, and you think it's different, but it's not. That's why we have these sayings that try to help our understanding. Say things like you reap what you sow, karma, yin yang, for every action there's an equal or greater counteraction. It's in everything, and yin yang is also a Eastern faith. So it's karma. It's an Eastern faith based saying. And here in the West, we have faith people who faith. They say you reap what you sow. A lot of it comes from the very bare, basic understanding and formal logic is what I call it, because that is what philosophers of ancient times have called it. That's what they labeled it, formal logic, because it's unexplained and it's not able to be explained. Get my book. It's available where books are sold. It's called Generational Wealth, Information Asymmetry, and Your Success. It's like you have a particular amount of information. That's information asymmetry, because it's exclusive to everybody. Everybody has their own level of information and understanding, and that's information asymmetry. You have somebody else has a different level, and somebody else have a different. That's what I'm saying. You have a different level of understanding, not you in particular, but you, everybody who's watching, everybody who doesn't watch, people in general have their own information. And it's because of the encoding process. The encoding process, even though we're all given the same book, we're going to take it in differently. We're going to digest it differently, and we're going to apply it differently. So it's like lotion. You buy some lotions for particular reasons, like baby oil. Diddy bought a lot of baby oil. I'm just saying. And he was using it for different things. A lot of people buy baby oil and they put it on their babies. So make their baby's skin soft and moisturized and everything. I'm just saying, is we do things for different reasons, and because it's like lotion and you get to apply it whatever way you can fathom to do. That's how information is. It's like you have it, but what you do with it, that's the whole thing. What are you doing with it? What you doing with all that, Diddy? I'm just saying. I don't want to know, because apparently there's videos. Y'all gotta watch yourself. These videos, you may be thinking you looking one way, you come out looking a whole nother way, and then you get blackmailed because what you did behind closed doors, you don't want to be man enough or woman enough to own it. I'm just saying, we probably all doing something behind closed doors we don't want everybody knowing about. But if somebody know about it, be like, hey, I had a moment. Don't disassociate yourself from it like it wasn't you and we can see it was you, because that's a whole nother mental situation. Own it. I had a moment. I did some things. I tried some things. I may not be proud of it, but yeah, that was me. But try not to smile so hard. You probably smiling because you reminiscing on some things and how it felt, what it made you feel like, what it made you think and everything. But, everything you did in your past, even though you may have some regrets, you may not cry about it, some of us. But yeah, maybe it was because it wasn't so bad. But anyway, the point is, God is consistent, and he's more consistent than anything. He's phenomenal. So it looks like you're doing things and it's you're what you're doing is controlling it. You're controlling the outcome. You're controlling the directive, and you're not. And it's like, well, okay, I'm gonna go to this Diddy party, for example. I'm gonna go to this Diddy party, and God know my heart, and I'm gonna apologize. I'm gonna pray about it later, but I'm going to this party. It's a once in a lifetime thing. I'm gonna go to this party. And then you get to that party and you so compelled to like be convicted, like, man, God, I know this ain't right. And you'll see somebody in the corner doing some things and they recording and they know they been recording. You like, oh, that look like fun. But all the while you thinking, man, God probably ain't gonna like this. He gonna probably have to blink for a little bit so I can do this because I want to experience this. I want to know what it's like. And you may think that you're controlling the situation and the narrative, but you're not. And sometimes it's like you're allowed to venture off into that because we are in this flesh. We're all in this flesh. We're all living this flesh. And it's not just in the light, it's in the dark too. We are in this flesh. And it's like, man, I know it's not right, but man, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it. And then you try it. And it's like, man, yeah, that didn't feel right. That wasn't right. It was fun. And it felt good at the time. But yeah, that's not something I want to continue on with. But it was an experience. So you see, it's not all the time that you're on this, what you would think a straight and narrow path. It's a whole lot of people who did a whole lot of things. And those whole lot of things was living. And they lived a life that they can say, yep, I tried it for myself. And that's not the way I want to live. Hey, Mama Michelle. It is like, okay, that's not what I want to do with my life. You can't know that until there's something happens in your life. And then once you see it, you can't stop seeing it. Like, yeah, I did that. And I'm not that old, but yeah, I came to the conclusion early in my life that I can't do that. And that's because you can't stop seeing them. You seeing it in everything you do. And it's like when you finally get to the point in your life where you're tired of that and you're like, I'm not going back to that. We're not going back to that. Anytime I see it, I know that's not where I want to go. That's not what I want to do. That's not how I want to feel. And that's not the outcome I'm aiming for. So we can't go back to that because it's like, I'm going to fight. I'm tooth and nail everything in me. And no matter what, we're not going to go back to that, even if that means something's going to break. Something's going to break, something's going to give, because we will not go back to that. You may be thinking that you are in control of that, but really what you're doing is you're putting it out there in the atmosphere, and then you're putting faith to work. And then with that faith and work comes together, and that changes the situation, that changes the culture, that changes the outcome, that changes the narrative. And a lot of it is because you putting that signal out there into the atmosphere. God starts to move in a way. He's like, yep, I'm hearing it. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the sincerity. I'm feeling, for example, it's written, when God's people pray, that is when things will change. It's saying that because, like, for example, the day of Pentecost, there was a bunch of people of God and they got to speaking and talking and praying, and then it changed to one language from what everybody could hear and understand. Is because when you put it out there, that is when it's going to start to change, because it's a spirit that's going to move. A lot of people don't like to look at it that way. So let's call it signals. Signals we understand because we can see it. We've identified it. Spirits, we haven't really put our thumb on it just yet, because studies and scientists and researchers, they're still sitting there saying, I don't know if this is what this is. It can't be conclusive because science says you got to be able to control it in order for it to have the significance of science labels and saying that this is really what it is. Anyway, it's not going to stop the fact. It's not stopping the fact. So anyway, we're going to just say signals. So the signal is going out there, just like the call and response, where you have this call where you say, God is good. And then somebody say, God is good all the time. And so that's like a signal. It's like a clapback, but it's really a spirit that is going out there and is saying, my spirit agrees with your spirit. When your spirit says God is good, my spirit jumps up and says all the time. So it's like you can't stop seeing it because it's some feeling inside of you that's way deep down in your, well, what they call it, I'm not gonna say it, but they way down in you somewhere. And it's like, man, you said that, and I feel that, and something in me is changing, it's turning, and it's a flame that seems like it's flickering, and it was going out, but the moment you said that, I felt something, and that flame started to flame on and get brighter and bigger, and now I can't control it. I gotta keep going with that momentum, and things are changing. We're not going back. I can't go back. I know what that used to be, and I can't go there. I may not be proud of it, but yeah, it was fun, but that's not something I really want to do. That's not something I would encourage anybody to do. So now you see them, you can't go back to not seeing them. Why? Because now you are compelled, even though you can't control it, and you accept the things you cannot control, and you change the things you can change, and accept the things you cannot change. You can't change the past, but you can control the fact of whether you do it again. Okay, you can't repeat it if something that you really don't want to repeat. But you can only try to control things, but it's not you, and you have to acknowledge that it's not you. You can be the vessel in which this thing is happening, because you're an individual, part of a whole body, so you can feel like, yeah, I'm I'm probably not doing the right thing, but I'm gonna go with it and see where it go. But something pulls you back, like you can't go too far. Like my hand can't travel too far from the rest of my body before it's compelled to come back because it's attached to my arm. You cannot say, okay, well, everything that I do is an individual, even though one finger on one hand could be digging in my ear over here, like, oh, that feels so good. But this finger over here is still writing and writing, while this finger is still digging in my ear and scratching my ear, but I'm writing with this hand. So they each have a different part to play in the whole body. So if you would just acknowledge this one thing, that you are one part of a whole body, then you could start to understand a little bit better. And you can understand with love and kindness, even though you wrong, you dead wrong. You wrong in two left shoes, trying to walk in the same direction. Okay, our response determine. Yes, our response does determine our outcome. And a lot of times we're not acknowledging that. So we keep on making the same mistakes, or we keep on making the wrong decisions that's getting us in a situation we'd rather not be in. Like some women, I've heard them say to me, I just make bad choices in men. And some men say, well, I just choose the wrong girl all the time. They always want something from me. I always got to pay for this and pay for that. Then I'm broke and I'm working 2-3 jobs trying to keep one woman. So there's that part. Yes. And it's like, what we're doing, we don't realize and recognize it. And it's the accountability that we're not accepting, that we're part of one whole. You're going to make mistakes. Make the mistakes. Own it. Accept accountability for it. Don't go back. Don't go back. Once you see them, you're going to be compelled. Even if you keep on trying to go the opposite direction, because God is phenomenal, he's going to move and be wherever he wants, because he is he does what he wants. He gonna do what he want whenever he want. He's not gonna ask your permission. You may be like in the club thinking, well, why are you up in here, God? I see you over there. That person done caught the Holy Ghost and we up in here house dancing. What's that about? We up in here skating, and this woman over here or this man over here, they done caught the anointing. I remember watching Michael Jackson. He was doing a whole thing. It was on live, and that man started shouting and praising God and broke down to his knees. once you see him, you can't unsee him. And it's like, yeah, okay, people can explain it away, but I promise you, you cannot unsee it. You can act like you didn't see it, but you saw it. You saw it. And even though you want to keep on being wrong and doing wrong, you know, that's you. That's your thing. It's not going to happen instantaneously for everybody, and it's not necessarily going to change everybody. But the matter of the fact is, you see it and you can't unsee it. You going through that now, Jackie? You had to change response for a different. Yeah, I feel you. And it's like, this is a life lesson. We are constantly learning this. Look at Trump. He's constantly relearning that same thing. And it's like he puts all that negative energy out into the atmosphere and he thinks that it's not going to come back at him. But yin yang, for meaning for every action there's an equal or greater counter action. That means what you did is going to be an equal or greater reaction to what you put out there. That's why a lot of times, pray times, yes, go ahead, Mama Michelle. I understand. I appreciate you being here. A lot of times people, they don't understand. But for example, Michelle saying it's time for her to pray. She's putting it out in the atmosphere, though she's going to pray, and she's putting that positive energy out into the atmosphere. She's perpetuating a positive spirit, a spirit of light. And she's like, well, that is what she's putting out there. So that is what she's expecting to receive in return, either in equal or greater reaction to what her action was. And that's why a lot of times you see people, they say, well, it's time to pray, time to fast. And it's not just in the time of trouble. I'm pretty sure she at home at this hour. And she's like, okay, I'm say my prayers, go to bed. I got to go to sleep. A lot of people wait until it's utter chaos surrounding them and there's no other thing they can do but acknowledge God exists. And God, I need you to get me out of this situation. I'm in the grocery store, but hey, here we go with this total chaos around me and bullets flaring. I'm in school trying to do my schoolwork and be here because I'm supposed to be here, because if I don't go to school, the truant officer is going to come to my mama house and start trying to arrest people because I'm supposed to be in school, because the government says I'm supposed to be in school, but the school isn't safe. And I don't want to be here because here we are. The school shut down because bullets is flying, people popping off. And it's like, what do I do? What do I do? I ain't got no other choice but to pray, because now I'm in a situation I can't get myself out of and nobody else can get me out of. So that topical layer of protection that I was expecting to help and protect me, that's gone. Now I'm at the root of the problem, the root of how to get out of this. And that the root of how to get out of this is prayer. I got to pray. And I expect that when I put that call out there, the response is what I desire. And I desire to be spared and delivered. And my teacher can't get me out of this. The principal can't get me out of this. The superintendent can't get me out of this. I'm in this school with this, whoever this person is, this bad actor. I'm in here with them, but I got to get myself out of this. And that means I got to pray and ask the only one who can get me out of this. Yeah, you might come out with a bullet or two. You may come out with more than just that. You may not make it, but you know where your help comes from. And we always only revert back to that sort of formal logic in the worst times. Whereas a lot of times people were like, when you hear testimonials about 9/11 and people who were supposed to be in that situation where they lost their life because they would have been on that plane, or because they would have been in them towers, or because they would have been in any of those buildings. For example, my husband was in the Pentagon somewhere when that plane hit, and I'm on the base somewhere. Nope. I was working out in the field in the civilian sector somewhere. And it was like any moment, anything could have happened. But when you see them, you can't stop seeing them. something happens. Some of them people say, man, I was going to go to work, but I called in. Man, I was going to be in this location, but I couldn't get out the door. Man, I was going to be in that location, but my car had trouble. So I missed it. I was late. And because I was late and didn't arrive on time, I missed it all. Because I was in this classroom instead of that classroom, because I was supposed to be in that classroom, I was spared and delivered from all of the things that I would have had to endure if I would have been where I thought I was supposed to be instead of being where I was compelled to be. When you see them, you can't stop seeing them. I've had a lifetime of that. For example, in my situation with my PhD studies, I was supposed to write in the way that they wanted me to write. But you sometimes got to play the dumb role, the nut role, and then you find yourself being compelled to see and put it all together and be like, look, this is the final product. I was compelled to do it this way, even though you wanted me to act like I continue on like I don't know. But here's the product. Here's the full product. And this is what I'm saying, not what you want me to say. I can't tell you that somebody wrote it or led to this understanding when it was a brewer or a Muhammad or Freud or someone that you don't want to have the credit. You don't get to determine that. You have to keep going as you compelled to go, and then you will see the root of the problem. Then you can remove the root of the problem instead of continuing to perpetuate that brokenness. You seeing them and you can't stop seeing them, but you have to act in the right way, because you never know when your time is going to run out, when them chances going to run out. You say, well, I missed the bullet that time. Dodged the bullet again. But not everybody's going to. So no, everybody's not going to die. Some people are going to pray for death. That's what the Bible said. And it's foretelling. Some people are going to pray for death and death will flee from them. That tells me that torment is in some people's future. Torment, that's all it could ever be. If you praying to die and you do not die, because death is actually fleeing from you, that means it's scared. It's not gonna touch you. Just, come on now. So you have to understand, do the right thing, or you could be tormented because you did not do the right thing. And it doesn't mean that you're going to pass away. It can just mean that you will be tormented in this life before you should ever cross over to the eternal life. And even then, you don't even know if you're going to change your mind and your heart enough that your eternal life is not damnation and more torment. Now, I didn't try to come on here to compel you to have the right mind and the right spirit. But if that's what you feel compelled to do, do that. But what I am trying to tell you is we need to get to the core of the problem and stop just removing the top layers. The top layers where you have bad actors. Go deeper than that, because those bad actors at the top level are representing some people at the core and the base and the root of it all. You need to get up in there and pull those people out of there and replace them with people who will perpetuate a positive, a light, a lucrative future, as opposed to the brokenness and the failing economy that what we currently have and are continuing to threaten to move towards. We can't go back. Stop following people who are perpetuating that brokenness and saying they can compel, they can do whatever they feel like they want to do, and forget that they're compelled to do the right thing and justify doing wrong until it's their life that's on the line and not yours. Be concerned about people who ask you, are you okay? Well, I'm going to listen to what you're saying, and I'm going to do it whatever I can to help you, instead of justifying it and saying, well, suck it up. You got to just have tough skin. Well, just keep on pushing. You'll get your turn. It'll be your turn soon. And then you get to kick crap downhill just like we did. But that's that. And that's just the way people have been perpetuating this broken system. Don't do it. We can't go back to that. We will not go back to that. You have a voice. Use it. And if God didn't want you to have a voice, he would not have allowed us to have free will to exercise that voice. Exercise your voice. Don't feel like you must be stifled, especially if you're a man and a woman, especially because a lot of people have died just so women can have rights to be heard. And a man don't ever want to be stifled because he's a man, he's a head and not a tail. But let's remember, the Bible also was foretelling when it said, the tail shall become the head and the head shall become the tail. What does that tell you? Watch who you're making your tail. Because sooner or later, it's going to switch around and you're going to be more aware of how you did that person who, when they were the tail and you were the head. That's been my show for today. Remember, mental health is physical wealth. Mental health